I've never seen anyone use this on ladder, but I did have an Australian player I used to play a lot of friendlies with, Javelin. He actually successfully used it in some of our friendlies. Quite nice premium there. Very atmospheric. I always want to call Elder Gleam Elder Glam Matron. I do like Spriggans. I used to obviously run her a lot in my Ebon animal deck, Ebon Zoo I used to call it. It's quite a nice premium, isn't it? But she often betrays me. The number of times she's given me a prize chicken, which is like a 0-1 and can't attack your opponent. She's done that quite a few times to me, and it's like, you traitor, when it happens, because when you're relying on it for a decent draw and then it gives you something rubbish. Then again, I did once get a Swamp Leviathan off of it, which was pretty good. But most of the time she can be a bit fickle, but I do like the art, and I'm very fond of Spriggans. Not the best art for the Vulture, but that's slightly better. I do use Vulture, normally only 1 or 2 copies in animal decks, because animals they tend to have lower health, so it's quite good to you're going to get a buff on that basically. A staple in most people's decks, and I'm going to point out its teeth here. I like to joke that my cat Magic, she likes to quite often sort of show me her teeth, and in a sort of playful way she'll like roll her lip back and show me her teeth, and she's got these little jaggedy bits a bit like this here, so I nickname Magic Giant Bat. That's one of the little things that's going to carry on after TESL finishes, that I still call Magic Giant Bat. There, the fangs have been just glistening, aren't they? One of the more subtle premiums, I'd say. The sky in the background's lovely though, isn't it? Particularly down the bottom of the card. This one I only ever got 1 copy. I forget, it was a gauntlet quite a long time ago, and I think I didn't have many tickets at the time, and I was less experienced, so I didn't win a lot, but it's quite a nice alternative. I do tend to run it a lot, but I'm never going to have 3 copies now, am I? Obviously a staple in Goblin decks. The art on it's okay. It's a very useful card, but it's not I think some of the other Goblin art is better because you have just more interesting things going on in it. This guy pretty much only gets played in arena, or in sometimes if you're in solo arena rather than versus arena, but it's quite a nice effect on the premium, isn't it? Just the green light along the blade. This is another old favourite from when I was a newer player, particularly with animal decks. She says, "Can I offer you some hackalao?" And I can't do the sarcastic voice the way that the actress did for this, but I do like this card. It's got fond memories. And look at that, the creature's dribbling away while she's sort of petting it. I think again this was one of the early ones that I got in premium just because I liked the card a lot, and she does sound quite sarcastic, so it was kind of entertaining. Another very popular card. Not a great fan of the art, but a very useful card if you want to sort of get past guards and attack your opponent. One of the more subtle premiums, I'd say. Just the background's quite nice. You got like, it almost looks like they're in a church or something, but it's a bit more subtle, isn't it? Never seen anyone actually play this card. This one's used quite often because it's very versatile, but again, I'm not a great fan of the art on this one. I like Khajiit's, but it's a bit boring for me. That's okay, the premium, but it's not anything special. I like the mountain lion. Sometimes you can't get the benefit of the extra magicka, but I do like the art on it. That's nice, isn't it? Falling leaves. Again, it seems like the smoke effect a lot. There's a little bit of a smoky, hazy effect in the background. But actually, you can see that if you look in more detail, you can see there's actually movement in the sky as well, which is quite nice. Not often played in, except in Goblin decks, but I suppose if you want some early aggression, you're lucky enough to draw it in your starting hand, you can get a cheap, fairly aggressive card out early. I'm not a fan of the art on this particularly, but the effect in the background is quite pleasant, isn't it? Okay, it's okay the art on this, but there's other Goblin cards that I prefer. That makes it a little bit more interesting. Just the movement there. It's a useful card. The art on this one's okay. Again, one of the more subtle premiums. Now, the art on that, it doesn't look anything special, but the premium version, it really is very special. Again, one of the ones that I really think is absolutely beautiful. Just look at that. One of my regrets about TESL, I feel a bit sad saying this, is that I'm never going to get to have the beautiful alt art sanctuary pet. I always hoped that it would come out because I didn't start playing the game until lockdown in 2020 when a friend taught me how to play. So I haven't been here since the beginning, and I never got the chance to get the alt art sanctuary pet. It's never been on any of the gauntlets, so it's a real regret of mine that I never discovered TESL earlier. It's quite cute though, the little spider, isn't it? I know some people hate the car because they think it's a pain in the butt. One of the more subtle premiums. I've never played shadow marking, but I think again it tends to be mainly in deck thinning and things like market. That's quite a nice effect, but it's a bit dark, the card, so it's not one of my favourites. Now this is one of my ones I've got a soft spot for. Shadow Master. So this features, look at that beautiful effect there. I like Falmer. There's a pity that there aren't many of them in the TESL universe. But I played a couple of different Falmer decks. They'll find them on my channel, and this card won me the game. I was playing against somebody, I could tell they had a javelin, and I had the Apex Predator, the 5/5 that hits for face when it moves, as well as being able to deal damage, of course. And I gave this the Apex Predator cover, and because they couldn't target with an action, they couldn't remove it from the board, and therefore I won the game. So it's a really useful card as well, and quite cheap for the effect it has, and just beautiful, that premium. Don't tend to see the Shadow Scale Hunter outside of Versus Arena. I used to play veteran decks when I was, not a full veteran, but like, I used to play the veteran guard that consumes stuff and then it gets a buff and gets their effect. I used to play that card a lot when I was a newer player. I might get that out again for a bit of nostalgia. I've only really played this occasionally in Arena when it's offered, but also occasionally I've done a lethal themed deck for a laugh. That's really quite a lovely effect, actually. Again, this is one of my favourites. Just so useful, particularly paired with charge. So one of my favourite all-time moves in one of, and it's either on my channel or it might be on one of Schwartz's videos. I think it. Anyway, I was playing against an invade player and they had this whopping great gate there, and I knew I was going to be able to deal with it because I had Stormcloak Vanguard, the guy 1/1 who gets charged, it's a 2 cost, and I had this, and I just got him out, got her out, put lethal on him, and then took down this gate. And even the invade player said nicely done afterwards. But I like the art on this, I like the effect, and I like the premium version. I like both versions really. Not a massive fan of the art, but the card is very useful. Again, it's not going to be one of my favourites. I actually prefer the alternative version. Now obviously I'm not a fan of Swindler's Market, it's one of the decks that I dislike the most. But that's because I'm a support killer, aren't I? I just prefer... I did craft a copy just to have for this video, even though a premium, even though it's not my thing, I'm never going to play it. But what can I say about it? I mean, obviously I'm not a fan of it. Some people enjoy it. It's just that I like to have an interplay between myself and the other player when I'm playing. I don't like something where a person just hoards cards and then just kills you in one turn. It's a different matter with Ebb and Slay because that's quite hard to set up. But with this, you just have to hoard loads of 0-cost cards and then just go regain health. So, having said that, one of my favourite games against Swindler's Market is when I had Telvos Magister on board and they couldn't kill him. It was funny, and he pretty much saved my hide because they every round they'd go to do stuff and he'd actually they have to break the ward every time. So that was quite funny. You do sometimes see this card being played, but I think there's other better face damage that you can do. It's okay, the art on that, but nothing special. Again, this is quite good with pilfer decks, and also it does tend to feature in market, unfortunately, which is probably why I'm less fond of it. The art's okay. That's alright for premium, but I just feel that it lacks depth. It could do with being a bit better. It's okay. Another one of my favourites, the Argonius says always courtesy first, and if you plot with him he gets lethal, so quite a nice premium there. I'm just very fond of that card, the way he says always courtesy first, and I can't get the tonality right at all, but I do like that line. He's very polite, isn't he? Unicorn, really fun card to play with. In fact, I'm going to add a note to try and do a unicorn buff deck. I have fond memories of Unicorn because of the number of friendlies I played with Banana Schwab friends, and he had a deck. It was a scout deck called well, I used to call it Scary Unicorns, and he'd buff the unicorns, and then you'd get creatures come out, and it was just scary when it happened. You see this massive unicorn come out, you know something nasty is going to get charged, and he also pulled off Cicero getting charged as well, which was bloomin' scary. But I'll always kind of think of Unicorn, think of Banana Schwab, and all the fun games we had. Quite a nice, pretty art there. I do like Courier. I think very useful card. I like the art on both versions, to be fair. I think I slightly prefer this one. I think in terms of the premium, I like the art style of the art on the standard card better than the art here, but she's a bit more, looks almost like a bit vampiric there to me. But I do think that's more striking the overall premium effect. This guy's the bane of my life when I'm playing against dragons. Archer dragon in particular, they always get him, don't they? And you're thinking, I'm just going to kill my opponent. And then they get him out and they've got a cheap dragon to pair with him. And then I sort of have to divert resources into killing him or silencing him. Not a great fan of the art, but I do appreciate the card. It's very useful in dragon decks. This guy never gets played outside versus arena. The art's alright on it, it's nothing special. I can't remember, I think I might have put him in one of my Outcast decks when I was playing for a video on ladder, just for a laugh. I don't remember much about it. I think I did draw him, but I don't think he'd obviously you don't see him on ladder much at all. This is one of my favourites. I mean, I've got several cards I'm pretty affectionate about. I love this card. I think I did one of my Grand Melees. I did when I played. Traditionally, I play something dumb in Grand Melee. And I did a back alley rogues. It might have been a Telvanni or an assassin. I forget which. I love it. He says, "That's worth knowing now, isn't it?" And he actually steals cover off of creatures as well. So it's really useful. Do you want to have a creature with cover? He's got a decent hit power as well in the field lane. So I'm pretty fond of him. And I think there's a whole, I think I put him in a move deck as well, so, and he got quite big. I remember I was praying for the opponent not to kill him because he got wounded, and thank goodness I was able to finish the game out before they could find an execute. But yeah, I'm very fond of that card. Not really played this one outside of arena, whether solo arena or versus. Flame effect's quite nice, but the card's a bit insipid for my taste. I've not seen many people playing it on ladder, so I'm assuming it's not really a great favourite for anyone's. I think it's more of an arena card, really. Now, I have played her on in a deck. I think it was on an Ebon deck, not a Slay deck necessarily, because it's when I was fairly new and I didn't really understand all the mechanics, but I'd have played her. But she was good when she got a Slay off, but the problem was I got fed up her saying, "By the Divine!" I was in one game. It's a decent premium, it's nothing special, but I was in one game and they just couldn't kill her, and I was like playing her and I was like, oh, she's going to say "by the Divine" again, and I was like fed up with her. I was glad when the opponent finally killed her, because it was getting on my nerves. Nothing special there, really. It's a pity there weren't more tribal options in TESL, because I think the Chalices would have been quite nice. That's quite a pretty... I mean, it just shows how sometimes the premium effect can transform a card. That's actually quite lovely. Not a great card to play. The art's not great, anything special either, in my opinion. Oh, let's go back, because I'm trying to leave a few seconds on each one in case people do want to screenshot any of their favourites. It's okay. I mean, it's quite useful in arena sometimes if you want to clear out somebody's creatures. Great fun in the last gasp deck. Again, it's not one of my favourite arts, but it is quite an attractive premium. I've never played this card. Again, I'm not a great fan of the art on it, to be honest, and the premium is okay. It's nothing special. I do quite like this card. He's not often played, but occasionally see people playing it on ladder, and it's useful when it gets the buff. Again, this is a good example of how the premium just looks so much lovelier. You've got the movement in the background, the atmosphere, the hair moving, and the weapons lit up. Almost like they've got a bit of fairy fire on them. I've only ever played this in Arena. Well, I have seen people occasionally play it on ladder. Again, I like the effects of the movement on there, but I don't think it's anything special as a premium, and when you look at the cost of it, I mean, I crafted one for this video, but it's not really one that I would think was an outstanding piece of art. Now, obviously I like Butcher. I play her with Imbued Bosna a lot, and also very useful just to generally shackle creatures. She features in my Consume Telvanni and my Consume Assassin as well. I suppose the art's not anything special on this, but I do just like the card for the effects, so I suppose I'm going to have fond feelings towards it anyway, aren't I? I like the way the light moves in the background. Again, it's one of the more subtle ones. Here's another favourite of mine. Delver is now an auto-include for me in anything running agility green, because there's so much Alduin path loop on ladder that you need something that takes out the graveyard. And she does that very effectively, and with charge as well. So, and also I've used her, even if you're not running a way to bring those cards back. Sometimes I do run them in decks where I could bring it back myself and utilise the opponent's card, but most of the time I'm just taking it out so they can't reuse it if they're going to journey or something. So, very, very useful card. I'm very fond of her. It is one of the more subtle premiums though. But the main reason I crafted her in premium was because she's so useful and has become a staple. In fact, I think I'd like to think, maybe I'm flattering myself, I like to think that I've popularised her use on ladder, because I've started to see, I never saw her on ladder. And since I started playing her, and she's featured in a few of my videos, I've noticed people have started playing her, so I'm kind of hoping that that was my influence, my small influence on the game, in a positive way. But yeah, I'm very fond of that card. Very, very useful. This card always makes me laugh. It makes me laugh. Let's move on to the this version. It makes me laugh because I used to play so many Transmogrify decks with Rux and friends, and obviously he wanted to be drawing that on a prophecy, and it would come out. Was it Transmogrify? No, maybe it was when we were playing animal decks. Actually, he wouldn't normally put that in Transmog unless he got it randomly generated out of a random card. No, he used to get this lot when we were playing animal decks. I'd always laugh because he'd call it his stalker. Very fetching stalker, isn't it? He used to get so indignant about the fact that it would it would turn up in his hand rather than being drawn as a prophecy. That used to make me giggle, and it still makes me giggle when I look at it now. It's a fairly subtle premium art though, isn't it? But anyway, I've got fond memories of that for that reason. Appeals to my sense of mischief, I guess. Marcia, would you please not vandalise the furniture while I'm recording? It's just one of the cats. Fairly standard goblin card, but I do like, I think this is one of the better goblin premiums because you've got the whole flame effect and that, so I just think it's a bit more atmospheric. A bit more going on in it, really. I know people hate goblins. I only play goblins if I'm either doing like the Goblin Resurrection deck that somebody, I think it was Drolax, requested me to play, which I did on Halloween. I only really play goblins very occasionally if I'm having a really bad day. Like I remember one day I had I think I'd been up and down. I was trying to make level up for one rank, and I'd been up and down. I'd gone all the way, been on a gateway game, so on the point of leveling up 5 times. Then I would end up going all the way back down, have a bad patch, and go all the way back down into Snake, and then all the way out again. And after about the 5th attempt at that, I just snapped and I thought, right, I got 3 games off from leveling up, and I thought I'm changing to a goblin deck because I just cannot face going back down into Snake for the 6th time. So I save goblins for like if I just snap one day there's just too much greed on ladder, or if I'm just yo-yoing to the point where I've just got I don't mind fighting my way back each time, but sometimes I'll just snap and think, right, I want something that's fast and aggressive, and then I might play goblins, but I hardly ever play them at all. But I've got a good track record about beating goblins, so I suppose I don't hate them the way other people do. But I do like this card. I don't think I'll be able to do his laugh very well, but he is ha 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 ha. It's a much more evil cackle than that when he comes on the board, and it just makes I just giggle along with it because not a very good impersonation of it, but I just find the goblin noises funny, and his laugh in particular is very infectious. It makes me giggle. So even when it's played against me and I know it's going to be a pain in the butt for me to remove it, I still giggle along with it because I just find it funny. So I think this is again one of the better premiums in the goblin cards. It's got more activity going on with the coals and the light on his item. Marcia, please stop ripping things up. That's the alt version. I actually prefer the classic version in this case. I mean the central part of the picture's nice, but I just prefer the art on the other version. Very useful card. I know a lot of people think this card should have had a nerf, but to cut it down to buff by only a 1/1, but very useful card. And the fact is, goblins, I mean, I don't mind it personally. They either draw it or they don't. If they don't draw it, then the goblins are pretty easy to kill, and also I've had a good win rate against them because I keep their board clear. Therefore, they're not going to want to put this out unless they're desperate. They're not going to want to put this out with hardly any goblins on board because they're not going to get full value. So it's okay as a premium. I just think the best of the between that and the shaman, I think the shaman's got better art. I used to play this when I was a newer player. It's again, I soon learned it wasn't very useful, but occasionally it helps. Not great art on it. That's a bit better, but it's not the most attractive looking creature, is it really? Well, that's quite a nice effect on that premium. Okay, this one is actually more of an arena card. Quite useful again for cheap drain. Quite a nice premium, a bit more atmospheric. It's almost like there's dust coming up from the earth, so that one is quite nice, isn't it? Again, I've only ever played Electra in versus Arena. And normally the opponent doesn't like it because it's draw. But it actually can be quite hard to pick a creature where you get value from it. The art's not anything special really, is it? It's quite nice, but it's nothing special, but it's just pleasant. Got to admit, I'm not a fan of this card because it's used in pretty much in monk Waxwane decks, and it's a pain in the butt to deal with, but I appreciate some people love it. I do like Khajiit, that's okay, but I'm not. It's not just that I'm not knocking the card. I just think I mean, it's okay, but I don't think the art's anything special. Let's compare with that one again. I think you can see his features a bit better on that version. This is a fun card. I also like the consume mechanic. like the arts. I mean, it's quite fun, but it's not. I think the art could be better on it. It just seems a little bit bland. This is one I really like. I like this dragon. I think I did a movement dragon deck, if I remember rightly. It was probably Dragon Archer. And I was really just desperate to get this to go off with the Khajiit that buffs when it moves, when a creature moves. I think I might have achieved it once, but yeah, I really like this dragon. I think it's a bit underplayed. I do like Falmer. It's a real shame there's not more of them. And I remember when I played my Fierce Falmer deck, got quite good use out of this card. Like the light on that, like the green highlighting of the weapon. Hello, Marcia. She's come over to have a cuddle. Good girl. Right, swims at night. I did play against somebody last season. They managed to get him up to about 6 cost. I think they were in a market deck, and I was lucky that I was running my lethal Ebon at the time, so I was able to. One, I was lucky that there's quite a nice sky in the background there, isn't it? At start, I think it's one of the more attractive premiums, even though it's not especially useful outside of market decks. I appreciate the opponent was able to get him quite buffed up in a couple of rounds. That is really nice effect. What was I going to say about that match? I was lucky I drew all my support removal pretty much on point, so I was able to see them off. They managed to regain a fair bit of health, but I was able to see them, cut them down, so I had a good board and I kept their board fairly clear. So, and I was able to kill their supports pretty much as soon as they put them up the next round. I'd kill them, so I was very lucky in that game. But I appreciate the fact they were running him and that he was able to. They were able to get a good buff on him. That's a lovely sky in the background. This card can be bloody scary. In a Pilfer deck, it can be really scary. It just spirals out of control really fast. It's seen a bit more play recently on ladder. I mean, it goes for a while. I didn't see it at all, but it has kind of made a bit of a comeback. I think people are being used to Thieves' Den more. Now, obviously, I like a Territorial Viper. Look at those fangs. One of the most used cards in agility, particularly when paired with Necromancer. Thieves' Den, my favourite support, and I'm a support killer, so that's saying a lot that I actually like a support. Let's move on swiftly to the premium version. Now this, I think this must get, if I was to do a deck, actually I was going to do a deck of hypnotic cards, wasn't I? Let me just make a note again, because I can't remember if I put it on my list. That is the most hypnotic card in the game, in my opinion. I have stared and stared at that, and I remember several matches I nearly wasted my time because I was so busy gazing at it because it was so lovely. I probably will craft to have 3 of that but I want to go through doing all the attributes first. I'm going to go back and then I'll make sure I have 3 copies of that. Great in my here Kitty Kitty Khajiit Telvanni deck, very good to get some ramp going on. More traditionally used, that's a really nice premium there, isn't it? More traditionally used in Monk Pilfer, but also pretty good in Telvanni. Telvanni Khajiit, that is. I've never played an Unrelenting Siege deck, but obviously a lot of us have been. They call it death by 1,000 cuts, don't they? A lot of us have been subject to those. The art on it's okay, I don't think it's the most appealing. I used to use this card a lot. It's a prophecy, it's got decent stats. And it featured in my original Ebon Guard deck.